Hi everybody, Joel here with Ovation Insurance, and I have with me today Michael Hernandez Peterson, business development consultant with Springfield Restoration. Michael is our primary contact when it comes to dealing with damage for claims. With Springfield, has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to damage of all sorts, and we're very glad to have him here. Michael, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Glad to be here and happy to share some information with folks.
So I guess tell us a little bit about what all you do and what you're seeing in general so far this year.
Absolutely. Springfield is a local family owned and operated company based out of Harlan and been in business since 1976 and been doing restoration work since 1994. Started with doing fire restoration, and then in 2003 added water, and now we're a full service restoration company. My specific role is really building relationships. I try to build partnerships with insurance agents like yourself, with plumbers, and with property management companies. And our role really there is to kind of become an added resource to provide information for you, be there for your clients in their time of need, and to help you continue to build your business as well.
Okay, so when it comes to 2023, obviously in insurance, we're seeing a lot of unique situations. We're seeing carriers drop out of the market. There have been several that have taken a break from working on home and auto specifically, some throughout the entire nation, some on a state by state level, but either way, it's to the point now where it's something that we need to watch and something we need to be aware of. On top of that, costs have been increasing. I'm sure you're seeing some of that, but everything is very strange this year. What are you seeing in 2023?
I think one of the things, as you mentioned, with some of the carriers dropping out, we've had a lot of catastrophic losses, it seems like, over the last couple of years. And obviously, then on top of that, having COVID and all of the issues surrounding that, I think have affected a lot of the carriers. And so that's changed the way that they do business. It's changed how much coverage they've been able to offer. And obviously, prices have increased and changes because of transportation issues, because of supply issues. All of that comes back around to hit the homeowner, right, at some point. And sometimes that's just through them going to the store and buying their own materials, to waiting on materials from companies like ours who are the general contractor working on their home. And it also hits their insurance carrier because the cost of what they're insuring goes up because of the cost of the materials. So all those things make it more difficult. And I've only been in this business for about 4 years, but I know our general manager, who's been in the business for over 20, says things kind of go in cycles many times. And many times carriers get to this place where they've either had a lot of these catastrophic losses, so they've been paying out a lot, so they're really tightening up, or even moving out of certain areas to help alleviate some of that cost. And they also tighten up the reins on what they'll allow a company like us to do as a part of a loss. But then it gets to the point where they can't really take away anything else. They have to be able to give. And then it starts to loosen back up. Carriers start opening back up in different areas. Prices start to come back down, and things kind of settle back down. And it's just kind of in one of those cycles where I think right now we're probably more at the top of one of those cycles where things are a little more tight. We see costs starting to come back, starting to level off and come back down, which is going to be helpful.
I've been talking to a lot of agents about this too, agents who have been in the business a lot longer than I have. And, some have been around long enough to see similar situations to this, but I think the majority, this is kind of a unique situation. So we're all kind of working through this in our own way, but it's good to have good resources and good connections to make sure that we're all on the same page and making wise decisions, whether that's on the insurance level or when it comes to repairs, when it comes to even being proactive with what you have and your property and so forth.
And I think one thing too, just for homeowners, is to just learn patience when you're going through a claim. I know it's not an easy thing when your home is torn up or you have water damage and you want to get it fixed immediately. we do get out there immediately and do that emergent work that needs to be done right away. But then the reconstruction, it takes some time. And people just need to learn to have some patience because it is going to take a little bit longer these days to kind of work through with the carrier. We always take our time to work through with the carriers to determine the scope of work as well as what is going to be allowed as far as expenses to fix the home. And then once all that's done, then you have to schedule, which is another more complicated thing now because of just worker shortage and that whole issue of having enough people in those trades to get the work done.
And one thing I've appreciated in working with you is the consistent updates. You have a portal that we can log in and we can see it, the client can see it, but everybody at all times knows what's going on. That's not always the case. And so when you have claims adjusters that are working on 80 to 100 claims at a time, it's good to make sure there are multiple points of contact to make sure we're all on the same page, that we all know what's going on and who's waiting on what. And I would say that's a big benefit for what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's one of the things we try to do is keep everyone in the loop.
We have changed the way that we're doing renewals this year. We're looking for different things than what we normally do. We always try to make sure we're maxing out the discounts, but now the conversations have changed to how can we be more proactive? What are some things that we can do that if there is a claim, how do we speed up the process? What can we do to make things better? And one of the things that we've started to ask or discuss is a list of your inventory at home. What do you own? Do you have any thoughts on that as far as when you're handling a claim, what you're looking for there?
It is very helpful to have either an Excel sheet that lists, kind of your major things. You don't need to go into detail of every last little item, but your more important and costly items that you do have in your house, to have an itemized list of those things, even to have when they were purchased and what the cost was is helpful. Even just go around with your phone and take pictures in each room, do a quick videotape of your home. That helps in a lot of situations, particularly in fires, when things are destroyed and you're trying to remember or recreate what was in your space. If you have visual identification through your phone, whether it be a picture or video, that's a lot easier then to know what needs to be replaced, as well as how the room looked prior to the damage.
So maybe that's the best starting point, is just go around, take the camera, get as much as you can in the house, and then make a list of maybe the more pricier items to make sure you've got it all there.
Absolutely. And there's some great free resources actually online. If you just Google home inventory that lists, a lot of places will allow you just to take their list that they have. It's an editable document that you can take and use, and it gives you ideas too on how to use those home inventories.
Yeah, so that's one of the things we're looking at this year, in addition to a few other things to help us all be more proactive and to make better decisions. What would you say are some of the more complicated claims that you're running into this year?
Yeah, it's we seem to be seeing more mold issues, and it is something that we do, mold remediation. Another thing that I think that people need to understand better is the different types of water losses, because we run into those questions often as well, whether it's a pipe break, whether it's backup from the sewer, sump pump failures, groundwater loss. So there are a lot of different areas within the water damage.
And we're seeing that on the carrier level too. There's different coverages you can get for water. You, of course, want leakage and seepage, and you want to make sure that you've got water backup, especially if you have a basement. But we're starting to see carriers get more into surface water and flooding. Traditionally, that's been more of a separate policy that you can buy. But now we're starting to see our carriers get into that a little bit more and offer that maybe on a limited scale at least, to get some of those coverages put back on the homeowner's policy, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good for people to know exactly what's in their policy, because many times when you get a homeowner's policy, you sign up, and I'm sure great agents like yourself are going to go through each of those different areas and help people understand what they need. But not all agents do that. And even if you are a great agent, go through that and they sign 2 or 3 years down the road, you're not going to remember what was in your policy. So I think it's good to have those review times to make sure you have the necessary coverage. If you have additions to your home, to make sure that that's covered. If you have additional collectibles in your home that need to be covered, that those are listed on your policy. But specifically on the water side of things, particularly if you have a basement, is to make sure you have enough coverage. Just having $5,000 for sump pump failure or water backup is most likely not going to be enough if we had those issues that we had last summer. We had all that flooding, because even minor issues are quickly add up when you have to dry out water.
That's true. We see that go pretty quickly. So when it comes to being proactive with water, what are you seeing are some of the more effective methods of preventing the water damage before it starts?
So one thing is just to continually inspect areas where you may see water. So open up underneath your sinks, make sure there's not any dripping from the pipes there. If you have an attic, it's always good to check in the attic area to look for any moisture that may be coming in from the roof, so that you don't have mold issues or future water damage. Make sure that if you do have a sump pump, it's great to either have a backup sump pump or to have a generator that will kick in if the power is out. Power's out, the sump pump's not going to work, and whether you have a sump pump or not, if it's not working, you're going to have flooding in your basement area. Another area that people don't think about are gutters and downspouts. You got to keep those clear, so it's always good to be checking those on a regular basis, because if the water cannot go down your gutters and get out the downspouts and get away from your house, it's going to find a way to escape. If you're lucky, it will go over the gutter towards the outside, but if it can't, it's going to work its way back into the house, and then you're going to have a water issue that way too. So that's another way to make sure that you're careful. One other thing that you can do is make sure that everyone in your household who's old enough knows exactly where the main water shutoff valve is in the home and knows how to turn that off. Because if you do have a broken pipe or a toilet that's overflowing and continually running, you want to get to the source first, turn off that main valve. That will stop the water getting to the source. And from that point, if you don't want to mess with anything else, you call a company like ours to come out and figure out what the issue is and where it's starting before you turn that main water valve back on. But otherwise, if it is a pipe that's broken, you can look for the secondary sources, which are typically near your toilet, underneath your sink, where you can turn off just by the source of where there is a leak. So then you can turn the main back on and still have access to the other parts of your house for water.
That's great information. Do you guys do any sort of installation of water shutoff systems or anything like that? Have you got into that?
We have not, but I do know that there are some new technology out there where you can have a sensor placed on your pipes, and it will determine or detect if there is a water loss, and will alert you when that happens. So again, it's more of an immediate, where you can quickly get that water shut off before a major water loss happens.
Gotcha. Did you have any topics?
Let's see. I was trying to think of the ones we had mentioned. We hit a lot of them with water. The water kind of. We talked about a few of those, cleaning up the gutter and knowing where. I'm trying to think if they were in. Just, I guess, if you want to touch, we could talk about the emergency that we do. Excuse me.
Okay. We'll go over that, and if you go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So what about some commercial bit? Start that over. So what if you are a business, you own a large property or multiple properties? Do you do anything specific or different in that sort of scenario?
Yeah, we do. We have what we call an emergency response plan that we put together, and it's actually a complimentary resource that we offer to commercial property owners or property managers. And we work with insurance carriers, like yourself, insurance companies that work with commercial properties. because it can be a great way to help prevent additional damage if there ever is a water loss, a fire, or storm damage. And what we do is we come in with a Matterport camera, and that's basically a camera that does a 360 view of the home. Kind of if you go online and do a walkthrough of a real estate home where you can walk through the property. That's what we do for the commercial property. And that does a few things. One is it's also almost like that home inventory where you're walking through so you can see exactly what the property looked like prior to the loss. You can see what was in each of the rooms too, if there is some kind of catastrophic fire that destroys a lot of things. And we look for potential hazards that might be on the property and then talk with you about how those might be insured or if there are things that need to be fixed to prevent those future issues. And then we put together an entire portal actually where the property manager and property owner can have access to that portal. They'll have access if they have multiple buildings. They can have a Matterport for each one of those buildings that they can pull up and look at. It becomes then their own workable document as well. So they can put in their staff. They can put in their preferred plumbers, their preferred HVAC companies. They can put in their preferred mitigation companies in there too. And then we actually help them have a step-by-step process to know what to do to help mitigate an issue should that happen when the main property manager particularly is not on site. So let's say it's 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve, the property owner's in Tahiti, the normal property manager who's on site is in Jamaica on vacation, and they kind of have their backup property manager on site. Pipe breaks and there's water flowing through the building. Instead of this person just freaking out and not knowing what to do, he can actually pull up the document online and it'll show exactly step by step what to do and even show them where in the building they need to go to turn off the main water shut-off valve, to contact the right company to come out and take a look at things. And then it also gives a company like ours authority to go in ahead of time so we don't have to try to get a hold of the owner in Tahiti. He's given us permission ahead of time to go in and do the mitigation, at least the emergency stuff, to get things under control so that as few tenants or business owners within that commercial property will be affected as possible.
And this is a complimentary thing.
That's right. We do it free of charge.
That is incredibly valuable, especially on the insurance side too. Carriers are looking for plans like that, particularly on larger buildings. And so if you can present something like that to a carrier and say, listen, this is what we have set up for when you have a claim, that could potentially be worth thousands of dollars off of your insurance.
That's right. And we have had carriers in the past who have given an additional discount if they have this plan in place. So it's not something that we've tested again here recently, but I really do think that it could be something that would allow those business owners to get that discount on their insurance.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Michael, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. If anyone had questions for you or needed to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
So there's two ways that are good to get a hold of me. One is my cell phone. That's 260-888-4698. Or you can send me an email at mhp@springfieldrestoration.com. And then they can also look us up on our website too, which is springfieldrestoration.com. And that'll have more information too about what we do and who we are. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here today. If you have any questions, reach out to Mike. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.